Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown. All right, man, it's like take two on this spoiler-filled review. As the first time I did it, for whatever reason, I recorded 3 spoiler reviews for 3 episodes of the television show we're going to talk about. Episodes 2 and 3 worked fine. Episode 1, no audio. So here we are, having to trudge through it again, and it was a lengthy one, let me tell you, man. You're gonna strap in, because we're diving into all the goodies, that's for sure. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler-filled, into the Mandalorian Chapter 1. That's right, man. After watching, the show, episode by episode as they came out, and then rewatching all 3 of them in a row, I was really, really excited to sit down and talk about these, man, especially from a spoiler standpoint, because it's hard to do too much without spoiling things in this show, man. Every episode so far has had a little thing that's just like a real nice touch or a nice action moment, and it all started with a really, really rock-solid episode 1, or rather, Chapter 1, directed by Dave Filoni. And what's cool here, man, is like, as I said, my non-spoiler, this was the episode that had to set the tone for the show, had to get the audience to bite, and had a lot riding on it. And it was cool to see Dave Filoni, who a lot of people have been calling for, step into a live-action Star Wars, right? He directs and runs, Rebels and Clone Wars, which are the animated properties, and people have been saying, give him more. Well, they finally gave him one, and I thought he did a really, really good job, man. He sets a perfect tone. He really does a great job of establishing, the new lore and the new era where we are talking about for Star Wars. And it makes it all tangible, man. Like, everything feels real. It's a lot of, actual sets and real makeup and costumes and less CGI, but the CGI that's in there is wonderful. So we're gonna do these spoiler reviews, man, like we did for my American Horror Story reviews, if you watch those. Essentially, we're just gonna break the episode down start to finish, man. Just recap the whole thing, and I'll kind of dive into things that I thought were really neat. I got plenty of notes, so if you see me looking down, that's what we're doing there. But I'm really, really pumped, man, because like I said, this was a really, really pivotal episode, man. You had a lot riding on this, and you got everybody to buy in, and Filoni does, like I said, a really good job of just setting the tone right away, man. You hear that beeping as we're coming out of the new Star Wars, kind of front bumper open. You go to black, and you're just hearing boop, boop. And the first thing you see, man, is the Mandalorian holding what we know now as a fob, which essentially helps him direct him toward wherever he's got to go for, the bounty that he's after. And after we see that, and we see him starting to, move where he's going to, we jump to that location. Little hole in the wall, kind of like dive bar or dive cantina, man. No bands or anything like that. About maybe 5 or 6 people in there, or aliens, just different beings in there. And we see a couple of them bullying this blue alien that's being played by Bobby Moynihan. Now, my only issue here was all the aliens, spoke different languages or spoke alien languages. There's one human, he speaks, regular English, and then Moynihan's character spoke English. And it kind of just takes you out of it a little bit because it just seems out of place for him to be speaking English when everyone else is speaking alien. And I get we have Bobby in there for comedic value and things of that nature, but, the subtitles would have gotten it across, especially in the delivery. So, like, it would have been nice to see it, but the fact that it wasn't there doesn't really, draw too much of a negative. Just kind of like, for me, you're just like, oh man, like, it's Bobby Moynihan, and it looks like he's in full makeup, which is pretty cool. But if he would have had an alien accent or spoken alien language, I think it would have played a little bit better. But anyway, you see these 2 guys, they're kind of picking on him or whatever, and they're starting to get physical, and it's noteworthy to point out that the one guy's beer falls over, and right after that the Mandalorian walks in. Everybody kind of stops. He just walks up to the bar, and the guys who were picking on Bobby Moynihan now head toward the Mando, man. And the one guy, like, takes his knife and runs it up, the side of his armor, and is like, is that Beskar steel? And Mando just kind of looks at him, and then the old man that's at the bar just, kind of goes, hey, he said you spilled his drink. Here, I'll give you one, man. And he sends it down the bar, and before it gets to the alien guy, the Mando grabs it, smashes it over his head, and continues to dismantle the room really, really quickly. And what's cool is you see one of the guys run away, and I heard somebody like, this is just like a cold-hearted move, man, like just killing a guy that was running away. I don't think that's what Mando was going for there, man, because he attaches his like wire mechanism to him, and it's just trying to pull him back in. I'm thinking he's gonna beat him up or maybe question him, something of that nature. But when he's pulling him, homeboy shoots at him, goes off the Beskar steel armor, and then Mando turns, shoots the thing that kind of functions the door, which is like one of those like kind of spinning circular opening ones. And as it starts to close and you see the guy is like dead center of it, the camera cuts because it is Disney. But what's neat is you see the legs drop. It's something that we used to see back in some of like the Batman cartoons when Batman the Animated Series was on. Things that would be really, really dark or too much for like a kids show or a PG show or even a PG-13 show. You get these angles where you'd sort of understand or see a bit of what was going on. And you do that here with the legs, and you're just like, oh man, that's... By the time he's done, you're just like, yeah, that's not a guy you mess with. And he proceeds to go from clearing the room right to Bobby Moynihan, who starts like just kind of praising him. He's like, oh man, dude, like you just saved my life, like all this stuff. And Mando just puts down this disc, which we now know to be a bounty puck, and clicks it on, and it's Bobby Moynihan. And Moynihan's like pleading with him, like, come on, man, like we can work something out. Don't do this. And this is the first time you really hear Mando say anything. And the line he delivers is just so good, and it's so ice cold, man. He's just like, I can take you in warm or I can take you in cold. And Moynihan's like, you can take me in warm. And we see them leave the bar to, like I said, an opening sequence that, has some fun choreography as he takes out all these dudes, and then finishes really, really badass, where you're just like, yeah, all right, I know this guy is just like, you can't get in his way, man. If you get in the way when he's on his way to whatever his mission is, he's just gonna mow through you, and I love that. And you get that really, really well established here in that opening sequence. And it just feels like a classic Western, man. Like the way he's moving, the way it's shot, the style of the cantina, feels really Westerny, and that's what you want, man. If you're doing a space Western, you want it to feel like a Western. So after he leaves the bar, we see him come up to a Kubaz, which is this kind of long snoot alien. He's got this flute, and he goes and basically pulls up a speeder, and it's this bright, shiny speeder, and it's got this little R2 looking droid in front of it, and Mando just goes, no droids. And the Kubaz says to him, like, what do you mean, man? Like, come on, it's brand new. Like, get you there really, real fast. And Mando's just like, no droids. So, hits the flute again, and you see this broken down chunker of a speeder come up with a human pilot. And when we come in on it, what's really nice, man, is it's Brian Posehn, who, I just enjoy when he pops up in films, and knowing that he's a big Star Wars fan, it was just a cool moment to see a Star Wars fan inside of a Star Wars, moment. And then he, tweeted out about it, like, a picture of himself with the shot from the show behind him. Like, what a cool moment for a Star Wars fan. So it was just really neat to see him, and it was nice. And after he pulls up, man, he kind of takes out some binoculars, and he's kind of doing one of these. And Moynihan basically says, oh, what's he doing? Oh, they're looking for Ravanax, man. Some sort of creature, you're assuming. And Posehn says, nah, it's all clear. Take off, get, to the Mando's speeder. And Posehn drops him. Mando settles up with him, even though Moynihan offers to pay. He doesn't let him, obviously. And then Posehn drives off. And as they're getting onto the Mandalorian ship, you see Moynihan just looking out, watching Posehn drive away. And all of a sudden, you just see this thing come out of the ice, engulf Mr. Posehn's speeder, which means no more cameos for Mr. Posehn. And then you see the ice start breaking right toward the Mandalorian ship. And Moynihan's just kind of frozen, and sure enough, man, this thing comes out. It's like a giant walrus-like creature. And right as it's like gonna hit Moynihan, Mando throws him in, shuts the door, like gets into his seat and goes to take off, but doesn't go anywhere. You see outside that the Ravanax got a hold of the leg of it. And what's nice here is this is one of those things where, like, you have this big creature and you're setting this tone, and it could be like a real big over-the-top moment or sequence. And instead, Mandalorian just goes out there, takes out what looks like his sniper rifle, but also has like an electrical charge to it. Zaps it just one time, gets back in, takes off as it falls back into the icy water. And from there, as soon as Mandalorian sits back down, Moynihan's character just starts going, man, just starts talking. And clearly you can see he's going to try to talk his way out of this. He's like, I got to use the bathroom. Mandalorian doesn't say no, and he goes down below. And he starts messing around with the ship, and he opens up the entire, drawer of all the weapons that the Mandalorian has, and you're like, oh man, Moynihan's gonna try to get out of this, he might get the drop on the Mandalorian, and then he closes it. It was a really weird moment. I was like, why did he do that? I was wondering if he was maybe just trying to figure out where everything was on the ship, if he knew how to make this ship work. But anyway, he continues to keep talking to Mandalorian and explore the lower cabin. And he gets up to this area where he starts, back in the day, if you go into a music shop, or an FYE or a Hot Topic, and they'd have the poster rack, and you go over and there'd be a bunch of posters in a booklet form, and he'd flip through them. That's basically what Moynihan's character does here. But as he flips through them, it's all different bounty targets that are just frozen in carbonite. Now, I didn't notice any of the three of them either time I've watched it be of anybody of note. So if anybody picked up on them, maybe being somebody or related to somebody in the Star Wars universe that we know, if they're just totally random, which is what I thought they were. Either way, Moynihan starts to understand that things are not going to go his way, and he kind of says that, and all of a sudden as he turns, Mandalorian's right there. He's like, yeah, no, it's not. Throws him in the thing, boom, carbonites him, and then takes off and heads to this bounty type world. And what's kind of been interesting is Favreau hasn't labeled any of these planets. I don't think I've heard any of them mentioned by name, and we're not getting the tags as you come into the planet like we're frequently used to in Star Wars. So it's a little hard to identify where we are. But where Mandalorian goes to next is basically just a place where you see a ton of bounty hunters. He goes into this bar, where we see Carl Weathers just kind of sitting down. And Carl Weathers is basically the guy who runs the show for all the bounties, man. He's got all the different bounties, gives them out to all the different bounty hunters, and, this bar is just full of them. And what's cool is we get to see Mandalorian walk from his ship to the bar, and you get to see, it's one of those things PLB that I've continually commended these episodes for not having any fat on them, man. They're very to the point. They're only giving you what's necessary. And, some people would be like, oh, what's with, all the times that he's walking? We're establishing the universe, man, making it feel tangible. I've heard a couple people who've been fortunate to visit Galaxy's Edge kind of say, when they saw him walking in there, it was it felt like you were at Galaxy's Edge. That was the way the park made you feel, you really were in the world, which made me extremely excited about visiting that park one day, because that's got to be a cool sensation to walk into something and completely be transported. They certainly did that at Universal with the Harry Potter stuff. So that's something to look forward to one day, going to see that in Disneyland. But I digress. Anyway, you're just establishing this world, and you're seeing how diverse at least this planet is, man. All sorts of different creatures and aliens, and different, bounty hunters and different gear, and getting to see him kind of walk through gives a very richness to the world. And you're just kind of immediately seeing that, one, it's a lot of costumes and a lot of makeup, and everything is very tangible. It feels like old school Star Wars. So I really appreciate any time we see the Mandalorian walking from anywhere that he travels to. So when he goes into the bar anyway, he heads right toward Weathers, and as soon as he walks in, man, everybody in the bar stops and turns and looks at him. He draws the attention. And I mentioned that in my non-spoiler review that, and also until they tell us otherwise, I believe it's Pedro Pascal in the suit, because there'd be no reason for them not to tell us that. They've never done that in the past. If someone else is in the suit, they've always told us who it was. And it's important because the way he walks, his presence, his physique, and just how he moves commands a room and puts off a vibe of yeah, don't mess with him. So anytime he comes in someplace, everybody's just looking right at him. But anyway, he goes right to Weathers, he sits down, and, he's like, so did you get him? And he throws down 4 or 5 fobs, and, Weathers amazing Mandalorian, you're so good, man. He takes them, and he throws down a bunch of credits, and the Mandalorian notices that they're Imperial credits. He goes, those are Imperial credits, I'm not taking those. And Weathers okay, fine. I can give you some calamari fla. I just thought it was a funny name, which is why I wanted to point out. And he's like, but I only give it to you for half. And, Mando's like, fine, that's whatever. So he takes him and he's like, all right, what's my next bounty? He gives him a couple different options. And Mando's like, I'll take all of them. And Weather's like, dude, I only got these 3 right now. And you got to spread the love, man. Like, there's all these other bounty hunters here that I got to give bounties to. I can't give you all 3, but you can have your pick of the litter. So Mando goes, okay, what's your highest bounty? He's like, well, it's none of these. And he takes them all back and goes, there's this one. And he's like, you got to go directly to the client. But he's paying a handsome fee for this one. So Mandalorian's like, all right, give me the fob. And he's like, there's no fob. I can just give you this chip that'll let you get into the place where he's going. So Mandalorian takes the chip, gets up, leaves, and again, we get to see him walk through the streets, and this time we get to see a couple creatures that I'm pretty sure we've seen at some point in some of the other movies. I don't know what they're called, but they were very, very familiar. One of them's on a pit roast, swirling around fried, and the other one's in a cage behind them, but you can see that they're puppets, which is great. We get a lot of puppetry throughout the course of these first 3 episodes, and every time it is a puppet, you just like, the nostalgia vibes are huge, and it's one of the things that I think Filoni and Favreau are doing so well, is really making it feel like old school Star Wars, something that I thought J.J. Abrams did really, really well when he did Force Awakens. Brought us back to a world that wasn't all this CGI stuff. And then when they do use CGI, they use it to their advantage. But we get to see Mandalorian walk through the streets again, and he gets to the place, and this kind of eyeball, it doesn't look like an eye, but it's a big ball, and it lights up red, and it scans the chip, opens the door. Mandalorian comes in. As soon as he walks in, you see stormtroopers, and you're like, all right, well, that's weird, because this is taking place after Return of the Jedi, so the Empire's lost. There are stormtroopers all over the place. What's going on here? And you quickly understand that the client either used to be part of the Empire or has been an Empire supporter. And when Mandalorian kind of walks in, you got these 4 stormtroopers in the room, and the scene is so tense right away, man. It was one of those things Filoni nailed in the episodes. Like, when he walked in that room, you were just like, all right, who's going to do what first? Because nobody does anything. And, Werner Herzog, who plays the client, is seated at a table. And all of a sudden, this guy dressed up like a doctor comes running in. Mandalorian pulls his weapon. All 4 stormtroopers pull theirs. And you're just kind of in this quick standoff. And Werner Herzog kind of puts the kibosh on. But the whole time, you're just like, oh, dude, the tension in this room is you got a lot of people that ain't cool with each other, don't trust each other. But then Herzog comes in with just this commanding voice, just his own voice, and just he delivers the most exposition and probably the most dialogue in the show through all 3 episodes. But every time he speaks, man, there's important stuff going on. So, first thing he says, he's like, look, I'm paying with Beskar steel. Here's a down payment, and gives it to the Mandalorian. He's like, this is a very, very important bounty, and I'm willing to pay a very hefty fee for it. And according from what I hear, you're kind of pricey, but you are the best, and I need the best right now. And then the doctor is like, yeah, and we got to make sure the bounty's brought in alive. Pershing stresses that fact multiple times throughout the course of the 3-episode arc, that it was important for him to make sure that the asset was kept alive. But Herzog adds, if dead, if there's proof of termination, they'll still take it, but it'll cost about half. And Pershing's like, we didn't talk about that. And Herzog's like, it's a tough world out there. Whatever it is, if you get the job done, we'll pay in some way. So Mandalorian's like, okay, that's cool. Where's the puck? And Herzog's like, for discretion, there is no puck. I have a fob. And Mandalorian's like, okay, what about his chain code? And Herzog's like, I only got the last 4 digits. Mandalorian hears those, and then somehow, I guess, I don't know if the last 4 digits must associate the age, but he goes, okay, so it's a 50-year-old target. And then Herzog's like, yeah, and I can tell you the last known location, but someone with your skill, that should be good enough. So Mandalorian takes it. He takes the Beskar steel, and he heads back out, and we see him. As he leaves, Herzog goes, it's important, man. He's like, the Beskar steel belongs with the Mandos. It is good to restore the natural order of things after a period of disarray, which to me was also hinting at the fact that he wants the Empire back in charge, or he wants things to go back to the way they were. And considering he's got stormtroopers all around him, probably wants the Empire or some form of the Empire back in charge. So, just little things like that, man. I'm telling you, there's a lot of dialogue when Herzog speaks that's very important. And anytime there is a line in the show, it feels like it carries a lot of weight, or there's a lot, you can take from it. You learn a lot, and Favreau's been very good at being able to translate a lot of information or feelings or vibes through one-lines and things like that. So once again, we see the Mandalorian walk through the market, which I continue to just enjoy every time because it's quick, but you get to see something different every time he's out walking about this planet. And you figure he's going back to his ship, but you see him duck into a different building. And this is the like the center for all the Mandalorians. Now I don't think we see any other Mandalorians as he comes down all the stairs, but he comes up to this one who's studded up, man, got like a gold version of the helmet, looks really, really cool. And we come to find out this is the armorer. And when he sits down, he pays her with the calamari fla and the Beskar steel, and she looks at it, and then she sees, that this is, it's got an Imperial stamp. She's like, this must be from the Great Purge, and it's good that it's back with the tribe, and that's what he needs, and he's like, I need a new piece of armor. She's like, okay, well, I can do that, and whatever excess there is, that'll go to sponsor many foundlings, and the Mandalorian seems pretty happy about that, kind of mentions that he was a foundling, and you're not sure at least I wasn't sure what a foundling was, but through what we see next, you kind of are able to put it together. And as she starts to make the piece of steel that goes kind of on his shoulder plate, you get to see these flashbacks mixed in, and you see two adults, a man and a woman, running with a small child. There's explosions going on. They put him into something and close the doors, and right around there is where the whole thing ends. But what you kind of take away from that is like, okay, this must be the Mandalorian. Those must be his parents. This must be during the Clone Wars, considering how young he is, and with the explosions and things going on, wherever he was living must have been involved in some way. I don't remember if there was an explosion that you can kind of tell happens right as he comes out of the flashback, or if that was part of the third episode. It's all blended together at this point, but you do get the vibe that he probably hates droids because a droid most likely killed his parents, and if he's a foundling, he must have been found and adopted into the Mandalorian. That's at least the vibe I get seeing those flashbacks. So like I said, very little things that kind of give a lot of information and give a sense of who this character is in this world that we're living in post-Clone Wars. Little things like that I really, really enjoyed. And she asks him about like a signet, and he's like, I haven't had one revealed to me yet. She's like, that's no problem or whatever. And he gets up, heads back to his plane and takes off and flies into this is where we get to see some of that CGI that's used so well to create these beautiful, different, distinct planets and worlds that we're going to. And this one is very desert-like, and you kind of question like, oh, is this a Tatooine? It doesn't quite look like Tatooine, but it is very desert-like, and because there's no kind of stamp on there, it's kind of been hard to identify where we are. But considering we're on the outer skirts of the galaxy, I don't think we're at Tatooine. And you don't see like two moons anywhere, so I don't think that's where we're at. But as he kind of lands and gets off on this planet, he starts kind of scoping it out, trying to figure things out, or he might be using his sniper rifle, looking through the scope. And all of a sudden, you see this huge creature running right at him. We learn that this is a Blerg, and as it comes in, Mandalorian is slow to react and gets like his arm taken. He shoots his flamethrower, but this thing throws him into the ground and just starts going to town on him, man. You're like, uh-oh. Like, Mandalorian's in some trouble if he doesn't get his hand on a gun or something. And while this thing is going at him, all of a sudden, something hits it and it falls. And you're like, that was a dart. But before you can really even grasp what just happened, another Blerg is coming full speed. And you're like, this could be it, man. Like, the Mandalorian is in big trouble. And another dart, electricity, that one drops. And you're like, okay, someone else is there. And we see an Ugnaught come up and kind of introduce himself. And the character's name is Kuil, being voiced by Nolte excellently, might I add. He's so good in this. But he comes up and he goes, you're a bounty hunter. I will help you. And then the first big quote of the series, he goes, I have spoken. Like, that's it, the end of the conversation. There's nothing else to say. I've spoken. That's what it's going to be. I'm going to help you out. Follow me. So he kind of goes back and tells, the Mandalorian that a lot of bounty hunters have been coming this way, trying to go after this thing. I send them off to this place. Don't none of them ever come back. But if you need to go there, I will take you. And Mandalorian's like, okay, that's awesome. So what's your fee? And he goes, half. And he's like, half the bounty just to be my guide? That seems steep. He's like, no, half the Blerg that you just helped me catch. Nolte's so good, man. And Mando's like, you can take both of them. He's like, no, you will need one in order to travel to where we have to go. You have to ride a Blerg. And then we proceed to see probably the roughest of all the CGI moments, but it's an interesting mix because there are moments when the Mandalorian is close to the Blerg that it looks like they may have actually built out something for him to interact with because it looks physically there, but then when he tries to break it like a pony and ride it so that he can, ride it with, Kuiil to wherever they're going, it gets kind of jankety and looks kind of funny. And it's kind of the strangest moment probably of the whole episode. But you see the Mando eventually kind of be able to break the Blerg and figure out how to ride it. And him and Kuiil take off. And it's at this moment where, I haven't mentioned this yet, the score has been phenomenal. I think the score of all 3 episodes is really starting to create its own feel and vibe that feels very Star Wars, but is very, distinct to this show. And this is where the distinctness comes in. Ludwig Göransson is the composer here. He worked on Black Panther and Creed, and you get a real Creed vibe in this stretch of the score as they kind of move along. And while it kind of feels like it moves away from like something that feels Star Wars and feels a little bit more like something else, I'm telling you, stick with it, man, because by the time you get to the 3rd episode, you're like humming this tune, and it does very much attach itself to the Mandalorian, and it's something that to be commended. I think the score so far has been tremendous. And as we get that kind of Creed type score, which kind of becomes the undertone for one of the main, stretches of score throughout the course of all 3 episodes, we watch Kuiil and the Mandalorian travel along. They go to this like quarry place, and Kuiil kind of gives the Mando the lowdown. They kind of look down. He's like, "That's the quarry that you want to go to." He doesn't want any money, man. He's like, "I just need you to take these guys out, dude. Like, since they've come here, there's been nothing but turmoil and stuff always going on. I just want peace and quiet on my planet, man. So go down there, do what you must do, Mandalorian, and that is all I require." And with that, he heads out. Mandalorian starts kind of scouting out, the quarry. And as he's looking, and you see the aliens that he's going to tackle, known as Nikto, are all over the course of this quarry base. And then he goes, "Oh no." You see a droid walking right into the center of town, and it's, he goes, "Oh, it's a bounty droid." And we come to learn this is the IG-11, which happens to be in Clone Wars. I started just rewatching the series to get ready for the new season. And in one of the early episodes, you see like an IG unit like disabled and not functioning, and then or 2 of them, and then they do function. But in the animated series, and then someone also mentioned that I think you see 1 or 2 of them in episodes 2 or 3. But the IG here is like you've never seen him, man. He is so nice looking, dude. Like, he looks real, and the way he moves and functions is just so cool, man. His head can spin full. His shoulders, arms area can spin around full. His torso can spin. His legs can spin. So he's just walking in like this, man. And it feels, again, very, very Western, man. Like that town that nobody's at except, there to be for an old school shootout. And he's just going through this whole place, taking these Nikto out left and right. And Mandalorian eventually comes on down and gets shot by the IG after he's basically cleared out the first wave of these Nikto. And Mando's like, whoa, chill. He's like, I'm in the guild also. And the IG's like, look, I've already read the writ of seizure, which is what he was saying to all the Nikto as he was coming in and killing them. And he's like, this bounty is mine. And Mando's like, I don't see it in your hands yet. And the IG's like, this is okay. And he's like, what if we split it 50-50? And the IG unit goes, this computes. This is good. But I receive all of the reputation merits. And at this point, Nikto are starting to come back out and shooting again. And the Mando's like, can we talk about this another time? And they get kind of off to a spot, and they both start kind of taking Nikto out. And the Mando's like, it's behind this door over here. He's like, draw some fire. He goes over to try to open it. He gets shot, blasted. They get behind. He's like, there's too many of them, man. Like, they're coming out of the woodworks at this point. All of a sudden, they show up with this giant turret, and just start... like taking everything out. So the Mando's like, look, there's too many. He's like, I need you to draw fire for me. So the IG's like, that computes. Because multiple times, I love the back and forth. The IG's voiced by Taika Waititi, who does a brilliant job. And the back and forth between him and Pedro Pascal are great, because he doesn't like droids, but you see him slowly starting to kind of be okay with this droid, because it's so matter-of-fact and business-like that it like doesn't quite get everything that he's kind of putting out there. And multiple times when they're in a bind, he's like, I'm gonna go into self-destruct mode, and you know, Mandalorian's like, no, don't do that. And when the turret shows up, he goes, all right, it's time for the self-destruct. Like, they can't recover my body, I have to blow myself up. That's how I'm built. And Pedro's like, no, why don't you draw fire from it, I'll get this. So IG's like, okay. He takes off, starts running, shooting, taking guys out, draws the fire, gets shot real bad, goes down. You think he's done. Mando uses his wire device again, yanks the dude on the turret off by like swinging it, and then pulls the turret to himself, hops on, and just clears the whole quarry. The whole sequence is absolutely marvelous, man. It's huge. It's action-packed. The choreography is wonderful. Like I said, the movements of the IG-11 is great, and the way the Mando functions in there with him, fantastic. Their banter is wonderful, and you're like, oh, man, what a great scene. Too bad that IG unit like broke down or whatever. And he comes up from behind the Mandalorian. You're like, oh, he's okay. And he's like, yeah, I got shot. And Mando's like, it looks real bad. And he goes, it didn't hit any of my core processing units. We're good. So Mando's like, we just got to figure out how to get this door down. They basically use lasers to cut it out, push it over. One more Nikto in there. They take it out, and there's just this floating egg. And IG and Mando go over, and Mando puts up the fob. He's like, it's in there. And IG's like, okay, well, we got to terminate it. And Mando's like, hold on. And they open it up. And it's the spoiler of all spoilers. Right away at the first episode's ending, man, we're getting hit with something that we don't even know what to do with. People have been like complaining about like, oh, this isn't what you keep calling it, but there's no name for the species. The species was never named or termed by Lucas that we know of. And YODA, that's right, that species was supposed to be the last. And when we open this egg, there's a little baby version of that species, and we're calling it Baby Yoda because that's what he looks like. And we don't know what else to call him because we don't know what the species is. So this little baby Yoda is in this floating egg unit. And Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, you guys have created the cutest thing in the entire known galaxy right now. I saw Frozen 2 last night, and there's a creature in that would give Baby Yoda a run for its money. Like, it's super, super cute, but you can't touch Baby Yoda, man. He's the cutest thing in the world. And the Mando's just kind of looking at it like, what is this? Like, why is this the bounty? And it's supposed to be 50 years old. It's a baby. And the IG is like, different species age at different rates. So he could still be a baby and be 50 years old. But the IG is like, but we have to terminate it. And this is a really nice moment for camera placement, because where they put the camera, you can't really see what IG is doing. You just know that he's drawn his gun and he's going to shoot the Baby Yoda. And you're kind of more focused on Mando, but where you can only see a part of him. And you just see a red flash, and you're like, oh my God, the IG just shot the Baby Yoda, and the IG-11 slumps over, hole right through its whole head. Mando shoots it to protect the Baby Yoda. And as he's kind of looking at it, he reaches out and kind of does one of these like, we're gonna touch fingers, and the episode ends, and you're just like, what does that mean? Where are we going? What does any of this have to do with the Mandalorian? Like, I didn't think this is what we were gonna get. Like, you think you're getting this badass bounty hunter show, and now we've got a Baby Yoda in the mix. And for right now, you're seeing that the anti-hero, that is the Mandalorian, is a little bit more hero than anti. He at least wants to know why they want this child. That's the vibe you get. Like, he's still gonna do his job, but he needs to know why before you can just kill a baby. And it's nice to know that Mando has lines. At least that's what it feels like. If he can bring it in alive, he's going to bring it in alive, and this baby poses no threat, so that's what he's going to do. And at the end of the day, you just kind of sit there with this first episode going, more. I want more. It was 40 minutes, and immediately you're just like, I need more of this, man. Like, it feels so Star Wars. It looks Star Wars. And the Mandalorian is so badass. And now we get this cute little tiny baby Yoda thrown into the mix. Which, by the way, the merch has finally come out, been released by Disney. And all it is the concept art image that Favreau posted on, I think, Twitter or Instagram about a week ago. Just on t-shirts and things like that. It's disappointing. They got to come up with some better stuff before I go get my Baby Yoda merch. But I better see a plush Baby Yoda toy before Christmas, because I need that in my life, man. He needs to be poking out of my stocking for sure. He's so close. He's so cute. But like I said, man, I thought this was a fantastic first episode. I thought Dave Filoni did a really, really good job in establishing a good foundation, starting to build out the lore, giving us pieces. As we go through all of these episodes, you see they just peel away small layer by small layer back of the Mandalorian as we start to get to know more about him. And I think this is a great establishing episode. We learned some stuff about the Mandalorian, and we get this huge spoiler moment at the end of the episode that just kind of leaves you sitting there in cliffhanger mode, like, well, what now? And I think it's going to be really effective for this show to come out on a weekly basis. This one was released when it dropped, which was, I think, a Tuesday or Wednesday, and we got the second episode that Friday. They will play every Friday after that, except for the Friday that Rise of Skywalker comes out. I think it slides to a Wednesday. That's the 7th penultimate episode, and then the 8th episode goes back to a Friday again. And at first, especially after you finish this episode, you're like, oh, why couldn't you do it like Netflix, man, and just release everything Disney Plus? Like, I just want to binge all of this. But what's nicer about this situation is, one, I can do things like this. If I watch, say, like Sabrina, and I do the whole season, you binge it hard, and then you just do like a kind of overall review of the season, and you don't really get to talk or focus in on anything. And doing a weekly release like this allows me to do it American Horror Story style. We'll be doing these types of spoiler reviews every single week. You'll get the non-spoiler on the Friday morning when it comes up and on Disney Plus, and sometime that weekend I'll drop a spoiler review like this for every single episode. I have already recorded episodes 2 and 3, so they'll come up shortly after this one. So if you're interested in following along as I recap the episodes and kind of break down the things that I liked and didn't like about the episode, or things I thought were cool, this is how we'll run it every single week. And I like that it's a weekly release like that, because it allows me to do stuff like this and get to talk more. And it prolongs the length of conversation, rather than being like maybe a week or two where we're talking about The Mandalorian. We get to talk about The Mandalorian for 8 weeks, and then probably a 9th if we're talking about the week after, as we start to look forward to season 2, which is already shooting. We got a great post from Jon Favreau of the Mandalorian helmet sitting on set, and he wasn't able to direct any of the episodes that he wrote or this show that he created, because he was working on Lion King and just too busy to do anything. Not the case now, man. Already working on season 2. I hope by the time we get to the end, maybe a few weeks after that, maybe we're getting a little taste of what's coming. I hope the turnaround on these is quick, because they're 8 episodes short, so maybe it's kind of like a season part, like kind of like AMC does, like season 1A, season 1B, even if you're labeling season 2 or whatever. I don't know. Whatever they're doing, just get me more Mandalorian, because the show is great. And like I said, rock solid first episode. Got it going. So there you go, man. Those are all the Seaman's spoiler thoughts. Oh, also, I mentioned this in my non-spoiler review also, but right after that, finger moment is done, we go into the credits, and there are these beautiful portraits. I swear to God, man, I'm going to go back and pause my screen on every one of them before credits come up and just take pictures of them. Man, they're the perfect wallpapers, they're backgrounds, and they look like real artwork. They're beautiful. So make sure you watch the credits every single episode, because they kind of recap what you see in the episode in painting form. It's really, really cool. But anyway, man, those are all my spoiler thoughts on The Mandalorian Chapter 1. I thought it was a really, really rock solid start to a show that is quickly becoming my favorite thing to watch. I cannot wait for this Friday to hit, so that I can get into some more Mandalorian. But if I don't talk to you before then, make sure you have a happy Thanksgiving on Thursday. Everybody, I hope, gets some family time and some quality time with their loved ones. Have a good time. But now, I don't want to know about your Thanksgiving plans, but if you want to tell me, you can. But what I really want to know is what you thought about Chapter 1 from The Mandalorian, man. This is a spoiler review, so feel free to go crazy down in the comments, man. Talk about whatever you want, your favorite moment. For me, when the Mandalorian is outnumbered 4-1 in the client's office, he's kind of being aggressive, and they're like, "We have you outnumbered 4-1." And he goes, I like those odds. Like those small little lines, man, those moments are my favorite moments in the show. Things like that, and obviously seeing Baby Yoda, and that whole ending sequence, man. I love the bar scene. I love the ending sequence. It's just absolutely amazing. What scene was yours? Your favorite, man? Let me know what one you liked the best. What didn't you like? If you had any issues with the episode, anything you're thinking, feel free to go crazy down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the Seaman as we talk the Mandalorian week in, week out, as we travel through this 8-week journey, then you should come join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Jump over there, hit that subscribe button, and if you hit the little bell that follows, you'll get alerts of every video I make, but you'll see the alerts for when I drop stuff on The Mandalorian. Or if you just hit the subscribe button, I'll pop up into your feed and you'll see when my Mandalorian content drops. And no, if you do that, you're going to help me out with my goal of giving some money to the Prostate Cancer Foundation. Whatever my total amount of subscribers is at the end of the month, donating that to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for No Shave November. As you can see, the beard is back. But if you hit that subscribe button, know that I will be adding $1 of my own money to that pot. And right now we're at $391. I'm out of cash going to the prostate cancer just because you guys subscribe and watch. So if you're about that, subscribe to the end of the month and then you can head on out. But if you're liking what we're doing, I really like seeing people come aboard and hang out with us, man, because we have a good time. I love interacting with you guys. So if you feel so inclined, please do that. I'll keep cranking on our content over here for The Mandalorian, anything movies or television. And until next time, for the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, I'm the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace. Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.